now that you have your pieces attached and pressed and looking like they ought to be, we are now going to move on to the next step. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my two sides right side together. Okay, I'm going to right side together, and over here at the top on the back piece, there's a little notch a little bit of the way down, and that should line up with the seam where your yoke attaches to the front. So you can kind of match those up. And then down here at the bottom of the skirt, this will match up. So I'm just going to connect those points. Again, we're starting with our match points. So we want to connect all of the things we know need to connect. And then the next two things that we know absolutely need to connect are the top and the bottom notch of our pockets. So the ones that we were just working on. So here we're going to look at the top one. So I have the two pieces together here, right? And now, this is another really important thing. We want to be able to stitch here from the top and stop directly at that point again, right? Which is why we have it marked. And what we want to make sure happens is we want to make sure that none of the extra little bits from the pocket get caught. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually fold these little pocket extras back out of the way so that they can't accidentally get caught in my stitching, because I want to only be stitching my skirt pieces together. Now what I can do is I can pin again directly where the stitching started and stopped on my pocket. And I'll pop a pin in there in between to kind of help me control it. And I'm just going to check the back to make sure that's also lining up there. It's a little bit off, so we'll just adjust that ever so slightly. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch from the top and stop right where this stitching is. I want to make sure I don't go past it because it'll cause some puckers. I have to start and stop exactly at that point. So I'm just going to stitch down to here, back stitch here, and then we'll do the bottom half of the skirt. Again, make sure when you're stitching this, remember when we did the yoke, we pressed everything up. Make sure that everything stays up while you're stitching over it. You don't want it to accidentally get pushed down. And then we'll start and stop right at this point here. We want to make sure we're not going past it, but that it's nice and secure. And then we'll clip our threads here. And we'll unpin here, making sure that we'll just double check on this, that none of this got tucked in, and it looks good. It looks like nothing got actually sewn here that it wasn't supposed to. So I'm just going to check and see how this looks before I do the bottom half, just in case I need to redo anything. So I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to check here that it looks like a seam, and then right here at the bottom of the seam, the two parts of the pocket come together. And are encased perfectly. I don't have one side rolling to one way or the other. So here at the top, that's what it looks like. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So now I'm just going to do the same thing I did, but I'm going to do it from the bottom section. So again, I'm going to match up my notches here at the end of my skirt, or at the end of my pocket, sorry. Ba-doop, 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 words. And then I'm going to pin all of my excess out of the way. So I'm just folding all this back. And I'm going to pin it out of the way because I really want to make sure I do not accidentally catch it. And I want to make sure that everything is lining up right. That's looking pretty good. So we'll go ahead and pin that. We'll check to see how that's looking. That's good, that's in the right place. And now we have our pin down here at the bottom, holding our two pieces of skirt together. So then we'll just pin in the middle, making sure that everything's laying really flat. And now I'm going to start my stitching right at that point at the bottom of my pocket. And making sure that I am not stitching over it, but that I am in fact giving it some nice back stitching so it's stable. And we'll just stitch down the rest of the skirt here. And we'll clip our threads here. Take out our pins, and again, we're going to just double check to make sure that everything's looking correct. So here, we've checked to make sure that we didn't catch anything extra in there. That's good. It's coming to a nice clean point. And then on the inside, it should just look like a nice little slit. And that's what it's looking like. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press as sewn on this seam, and then I'm going to press it open as if it was just a regular seam, and then we'll finish out the pocket bag.